Imagine walking down a crowded 19th century London street. The air is thick with coal smoke, the clatter of horse hooves surrounding you. Suddenly, a deafening roar. You look up, and an unimaginably massive wall of dark liquid is hurtling right toward you, swallowing everything in its path. And it's not water.
It's not mud.
It is beer. In mere seconds, solid brick houses are instantly crushed under the sheer weight of this wave. People are scrambling, running for their lives as entire families are suddenly trapped beneath the rubble of their own homes. Within minutes, one of the absolute strangest and most terrifying disasters in human history unfolds right in the heart of the city. I know, it sounds like pure fiction, right? Like some dark graphic novel, but I promise you, this unbelievable nightmare actually happened. So let's dive into this explainer and uncover the true terrifying story of the Great Beer Flood of London. Part 1. London's giant brewing vats and the calm before the flood. The year is 1814. We're in London, one of the busiest, most tightly packed cities on the planet. Factories are booming, the air is choked with smoke, and thousands of horse-drawn carts are jamming up these narrow, winding streets. Industry is king here, and the whole city is just moving at a breakneck pace. Right in the middle of all this chaos was the Meadox & Company Brewery. These guys were famous for churning out truly massive amounts of dark porter beer. It was a hugely profitable operation, a major source of local pride and jobs. And the workers? They spent their days right in the shadow of this massive industry, completely convinced that their equipment was perfectly safe. But, tragically, a disaster was quietly taking shape right under their noses. You have to picture the sheer, overwhelming scale of this machinery. We are not talking about your average wooden barrels here. The Meadox & Company fermentation vats were gargantuan, literally several stories tall. Each individual tank held hundreds of thousands of liters of beer, all held together by these massive iron hoops. They were towering monuments to London's industrial might, but they hid a fatal flaw. Which brings us to part 2, the ignored warning and a disaster quietly taking shape. Here's exactly how it went down. It's the afternoon of October 17, 1814. Employees working near these massive tanks suddenly hear a loud, violently sharp metallic snap echoing across the brewery floor. One of those massive iron hoops we just talked about? It snapped under the immense pressure. Moments later, terrified workers rushed to report the break to management. But, and this is the crazy part, this kind of thing had actually happened before. So for an entire hour, the warning is just completely ignored. Management simply didn't think it was an emergency. Business as usual. But 1 hour later, everything changes. Part 3. 1.4 million liters explode, setting off the chain reaction. The structural integrity of that massive wooden vat finally gives out. It explodes with the literal force of a bomb. This massive release of pressure triggers an immediate, unstoppable chain reaction. Nearby vats just can't withstand the sudden shockwave, and they burst apart in a matter of seconds. The sheer, overwhelming force of this liquid avalanche smashes straight through the thick, structural brick walls of the brewery like they were made of tissue paper. To put this into perspective, we are talking about 1.4 million liters. More than 1.4 million liters of dark porter beer surging out of the ruined brewery in a split second. A towering, chaotic wave of liquid just erupting out into the unsuspecting, densely populated neighborhood right outside those walls. Witnesses who somehow survived that initial blast describe the sound preceding the wave as a thunder-like roar. Just imagine the sheer auditory terror of standing on a quiet 19th century street, hearing the deafening crack of a building collapsing, and then a rushing, roaring tide of darkness racing directly at you. The devastation on the ground was absolute. The residents had literally zero warning. In seconds, these narrow city streets were transformed into raging rivers of dark beer. Panic spread everywhere. Homes collapsed under the violent tide, tragically trapping families beneath the falling brick and timber. Rescuers bravely rushed in, but they struggled immensely. The streets were completely choked with heavy debris and sticky, dark floodwater. Surrounding businesses were heavily damaged, and tragically, several innocent people lost their lives that day. When the floodwaters finally receded, crowds gathered in total shock. Newspapers across Britain jumped on the story, and readers everywhere were utterly baffled that beer, of all things, could cause such catastrophic devastation. Part 4. The shocking legal verdict and the unbelievable aftermath. Think about the immense human cost here. Several lives lost, countless homes completely destroyed, entire families traumatized, and local businesses ruined. Yet despite all of this massive loss of life and property, the legal verdict was absolutely stunning. The Mukes and Company Brewery, they weren't found legally responsible at all. The courts officially ruled the disaster as an unavoidable accident, essentially an act of God. And it gets even more astonishing. Rather than paying a single dime in damages to the victims, this wealthy brewery actually received financial relief from the government to compensate for their lost product. Unbelievable, right? Following the disaster and their handy financial bailout, the company just rebuilt its facilities and calmly went right back to producing beer, treating the whole tragedy like a minor bump in the road. Over the centuries, this event firmly cemented itself in history as one of the strangest, most bizarre industrial disasters Britain has ever seen. In fact, the whole story is so incredibly unusual, so utterly surreal, that a lot of people today who hear about it firmly believe it's just an urban myth. But as we've seen in this explainer, it is 100% real. The Great Beer Flood reminds us just how fragile history really is, and how often it's much stranger than fiction. One small mechanical failure, literally a single ignored broken iron hoop, sparked a devastating chain reaction that tore through an entire neighborhood and changed lives forever. Now, it's important to recognize how far we've come. Today, we have vastly stronger engineering standards and strict safety regulations in place, making an industrial disaster of this specific nature far less likely. But still, this serves as an incredibly powerful reminder. Even in our modern world, the everyday industries and factories we drive past every single morning can sometimes hide unexpected, even catastrophic dangers right behind their walls.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Put yourself in the shoes of a Londoner on that fateful day. If you were living there in 1814 and you suddenly heard a massive, thunderous explosion outside your window, what would your instinct be? Would you stay put, hoping it's safe inside? Or would you run out into the narrow street to see what on earth just happened? Drop your survival strategy in the comments below.